I come before you this evening. I am Sanina Ellison-Jones, the second Vice President for the Dearborn REALTIST Board, to introduce our moderator for the influencer panel. The influencer panel is important to our community because these are community stakeholders and business owners who have influence in the community based on the accomplishments that they've reached. Meghan Harte serves as the Executive Director of the Chicago office of the Local Initiative Support Corporation, also known as LISC Chicago. A national leader in comprehensive community development, LISC, with residents and partners, forges resilient and inclusive communities of opportunity across America. Great places to live, work, visit, do business, and raise families. Meghan oversees a professional staff of 14, an active real estate loan portfolio, and an annual organizational budget of $8 million. Prior to joining LISC Chicago, Meghan served as Mayor Rahm Emanuel's Deputy Chief of Staff. Previous to working in the mayor's office, Meghan was Vice President of AECOM. She also served as the Managing Director of Resident Services for the Chicago Housing Authority. Meghan served as a Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Richard M. Daley and held positions surrounding the 1996 Democratic National Convention and the 2012 NATO Host Committee. Meghan holds a bachelor's degree from Vanderbilt University and received her JD from Loyola University Chicago School of Law. She serves on the Chicago Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and is a volunteer coach at ABC Pilsen. So I'm going to ask Meghan Harte if you can please come to the stage. I will. And as I call your name, if each of the panelists can please come forward and you can introduce yourselves. Our first panelist is Waka Flocka Flame. Forgive me if I say your name. Our next panelist is Kamau Murray. And our next influencer panelist is Bobby Simmons.
Is he coming?
He's coming.
So you want to get started while we wait for Waka's entrance? Okay, cool. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you for our panelists. What I'm going to ask them to do, each of our panelists is doing something that a lot of other folks don't do in our communities, which is investing in our neighborhoods in different ways and using their influence to drive more investment. So I'd like to have Kamau just introduce yourself, background, and just what are you doing in investing in communities and real estate?
My name is Kamau Murray. I'm the founder of the Excess Tennis and Education Foundation, and CPS graduate K through 12. Played tennis growing up and watched Bobby play basketball growing up, and we all hung out in the clubs in our young 20s. Your wife. I'm just kidding. And then went back to the piece of land where my dad grew up, which is the site of the Robert Taylor homes, which they call the Hole, and built the second largest indoor and outdoor tennis facility in the country and the third tennis facility in the world to be built by a black man.
I'll wait. Okay. Well, I'm Bobby Simmons, as well as, like you said, community and rebuilding. Born and raised in the city of Chicago. Grew up on the south side in Altgeld Gardens. And I think for myself, I'm a Chicago native. I invest on all sides of Chicago, one being the West Loop here in Chicago as Society. We hosted tonight. I have single family homes as well as commercial real estate throughout the city of Chicago. And I'm an advocate for rebuilding Chicago. Thank you.
Sorry. How y'all doing? I'm Waka Flocka. I'm from Georgia, Clayton County, Georgia, but I gotta say this. I feel like I'm from Chicago. I did my whole first album in Chicago. I shot all my videos in Chicago. All my #1 fans was in Chicago. So for me, being a kid, my imagination was everything. And I ain't wanna fall victim to the circumstances like the rest of everybody from my community. So I chose to join these group of brothers that I feel like I could follow them and they could lead and I could learn a lot. So I'm just grateful to be on stage. And I do have a lot of single family homes that I'm getting into learning how to develop through Bobby, through this profound brother right here. Thank you so much, man. And just thank y'all, man. I'm proud to be on this stage. You're gonna see a lot of me in the future. Thank you.
So thanks. So some of the work that LISC does in communities is really trying to drive investments into those neighborhoods. And I think it was discussed in the last panel, and I gotta stand up here. And I wanted to bring it up here too, because a lot of even accessing community development finance institution and lower cost capital is really driven by essentially white men, what I call stale, pale, and male. And what we don't see is a lot of folks like this. And a lot of that's because of challenges with access to capital, not a lot of a network to support, not a lot of equity to bring to any opportunity, or just immediately being seen as a risk, regardless. Just when they walk in the door, it's a high risk. And so what I want to ask you guys to talk about is why are you doing this type of investment? And when you've done it, what was the easiest part about it and what was the hardest part about it?
I would say why is because, I went to school and got a college scholarship to play tennis and got a master's in finance. And, when I see people who don't look like come in our community and do very simple things just because they may have, monitored their credit score, chosen not to buy the fancy car and keep cash in the bank and position themselves where they can get a loan. I figured if I could just sort of be a model for what that looks like, to not live a lavish lifestyle and to just, monitor your credit score and reinvest and then provide opportunities for people that look like us and develop in a thoughtful way, I figured I could, be an example just to my peer group. Secondly, I felt like, growing up, being the only black to play tennis, I was top 10 in the country. I was always the only black in a tournament of 120 kids. I remember playing a tournament in Highland Park, and I ended up getting paired up with this Asian kid, and his dad owned the wig shop on the corner of 71st and Jeffrey by my house. And, I felt like that was the eye-opening for me, that people I would meet in random parts of the city, I said, I live on the 72nd in Paxton. Like, oh yeah, my dad works there. I'm like, no, he doesn't. I'm talking about not 7200 North, 7200 South. And then he said, no, my dad owns the wig store on the corner of your block. And so I felt like it was time for us who went away, got educated, got opportunities to come back and share that opportunity. Also felt like being a native Chicagoan. If you grow up here, everybody's your mama's friend, and my mom tutored Janice Jackson in my basement, and my dad was a Cook County judge. It'd be a waste to not come back and use those relationships to do good. And all those people who, when I see them out at the restaurant, say, "Oh, it's so great to see you turned out turned out good." So now it's time for me to have them support me, right, and create another example of a Chicago public school kid that can leverage their resources, force them to put their money where their mouth is, and create a shining star for the city and for the country.
Well, I think overall my why is I think I overcame obstacles. One, beat the odds from growing up in public housing and actually being the second person in my family to actually own a house. this is the reason why I go so hard for Chicago, as well as being an advocate and giving out information to actually build up our communities. One, like you said, what side are you from? They say north side, south side, east side, west side. I'm from all over Chicago. And I go to the parks, I train kids, I mentor adults, I work for the NBA Players Association. So now, currently, I'm working with a lot of the players that's actually from Chicago to bring everything back here. So this is my, okay. Because not only that, like you said, we could easily go elsewhere, and being passionate about the city itself, one, being raised here, and a lot of things that I've learned and overcame, a lot of our youth need us, and that's my focus. So actually, I want to just share that information to make sure that they're on the right track. And not only that, me being a part of their lives could possibly change some of the decisions that they make. And that's my why.
Me again. I'm sorry. I got 3 reasons why I chose to even get in this field of profession, of buying property and actually helping community. One was my grandmother's house. We don't even own it. We got 3 generations that grew up in this house, and we don't even own the house. That right there, that crushed me. I'm like, I'm Waka Flocka. Like, I could buy this house, but I couldn't buy that house. Just because I had money and just because I was who I was, it didn't work like that. And I wanted to figure that out. And I didn't want nobody to have that on my shoulders. I wanted to bring that to my family as a man and be like, I bought grandma's house. That was one reason. Another reason, people I grew up with, I watched their parents have these houses and these properties. And then when I came back after this career that God blessed me with, they lost their house. They end up getting foreclosed. They end up fixing these houses up and couldn't make these X amount of rents or these mortgages, and end up getting kicked out of that house to somebody rehabbing that house, selling it for double. That actually crushed me. And I just, as a rapper and as an artist, you always see artists get clothing lines, liquor deals. You know, I wanted to be somebody like normal. I wanted to say, yo, go do real estate. Like, in rap, we love claiming blocks and hoods and whatever we want to call it, but we don't own a block. The landlord could come and be like, hey, get off that block. So that right there, that put something in me. And I think the smartest thing I ever did in my career was buy a house before I got a car. That blessed me, because when I hit rock bottom, I refinanced that house and grabbed some equity, you know? And it actually gave me another wind in life. So I just thank God for that, man. And that's the reasons why I'm sitting on this panel. Thank y'all.
So you guys are really great examples of making smart financial decisions, investing back in the community. How can you take your status and pull the next folks along? What do you think? Where could you provide some influence? What would that look like?
I don't have any status, so I'll let Bobby answer.
He's the best tennis player in the city of Chicago, but he don't have status. Well, I think overall, like I probably mentioned before, is that if we have status, being present is the main purpose. I think for, like you said, guys that's played in the NBA that's from Chicago and have that opportunity to share knowledge. I think that is key, because now being present, there are certain questions that they may not want to ask once they see you and they catch them by themselves. Then they might be a little personal with you, because one, you may know them from previous time before, to actually ask those questions. And access is everything, right? Access. Access is everything, and I think that's the key to knowledge, exactly, with sharing knowledge and giving people insight about things in life.
For me, status is what y'all call leverage. You see, like for me, status, it made me surpass education. Like, I didn't have to go to school for these many years, not saying that I didn't want to go, because I actually figured out college was fun as hell. When I got to perform in these colleges, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, that shit's like an educational playground, man. I need to be here. Like, well, status, I think for us, the best thing we could do is don't talk and lead by example. I think everybody's seeing where we started, seeing where we going, and seeing where we're about to end up. And to me, that make other kids think like, you know something? I could put a suit on like Bobby. I could be the only black kid playing tennis. You know, stuff like that to me. I think leading by example, these millennial kids, they don't want to hear no words. They don't give a shit about your words. They don't care nothing about your money. They don't care nothing about your cars. They want to see you doing it. They actually want to see you come from A to Z. And for me, that's status. Status is just leverage, man. Status will get you in any room, but you could fuck it up if you say the wrong things. So you just need to be educated on what you about to do, what you about to say, and how you about to move when you get in them rooms. And that's status to me.
So I think I asked this question before, but I didn't really get an answer. But I want to ask Kamau, because I've watched his process of trying to get the tennis facility up and running, from financing to operations. But what was the hardest part? What was the hardest part of getting that development going?
I think there was challenges every step of the way. So I think the first step was, and Meghan deserves a lot of credit for, you know, you need somebody in the city to sort of help push the process, right? Because like I said, it was the second indoor and outdoor facility in the country built in a poor neighborhood. And obviously I was the third black man in history to do it, so I walk in my sweatpants. I don't think I wore a tie the first day. But I think I walk in and trying to get people to believe that, you know, this community needed not just a small facility, but a bigger facility. That this community needed not only a facility, but a phase 2 for housing and retail and basketball and everything else. I think the second thing was, you know, I had an existing organization for 10 years, but it was break even, right? Because our mission was to provide, you know, affordable lessons, not to make a lot of money. And so I actually ran into the Chicago Community Loan Fund, and they put me through the ringer trying to get a loan. At first, $1.3 million, right? But then they also educated me on new market tax credits and TIF and how to layer on the financing to make this thing work. But, you know, yet again, I think you got to start signing personal guarantees for this, right? And, you know, I always looked at it through every hurdle was, you know, I was already poor, right? And so I didn't have anything to lose, right? What could I lose, the $5 to $50 in my pocket? And so it was plenty of obstacles to get me to stop, right? Where you zoning and plan commission and, you know, and the interest associated with the TIF. And then you get to loan committee and CCLF asks for the same documents you send them times. And then you get the public housing advocates who want more public housing and don't want amenities to complement the public housing. And so I think the hardest part was probably obviously the money, right? But I think, you know, and I think what we have to get used to is expecting all parts of it to be hard. I mean, even with, you know, Meghan being personally assigned to my project by the mayor to make sure it happened, there was still always an additional conversation, and somebody didn't get the message that this should be easy. And I'm sitting in the meetings with people that I thought were going to be cooperative, and they're like, you know, turning me inside out, asking me, I'm like, did y'all not get the phone call? I'm like, did Rom like call the wrong number? Y'all didn't know this was supposed to happen, like real easy? You're supposed to say yes? And so I think that it's just, for us in our community, we have to get used to things being hard and to keep going. Because some of the white people and the Jewish people and the Arab folks who work in our community, they are relentless. Other developers who are not minority are relentless at getting the deals done. I can name one, right? And I think that sometimes we just get exhausted or we lose hope because we are used to, as a people, getting close to the finish line and not getting over the finish line. And in my household, my parents were like, you need to do it till it's done, right? And you kill yourself trying to do it. So I think the hardest part was just to keep going, right? It was not every process being hard, but it was just the totality, and every night just saying, you know what, I really don't have to do this. I got a job, I got a nice crib, 48th in Michigan. I can just, my best friend played in the NBA for 13 years. You know, if I need some money, I can ask him. Went to the All-Star game 10 years in a row. I hadn't seen it all, did it all. I don't really need to do this. Why are they making it so hard? And so I think the hardest part was just keeping going. And that's what I would say. Oh, that's it.
So I think for my last question, it's for everybody, but we'll start with Bobby, go to Waka, and come back to Kamau, is, so what's next? What's the next thing you're going to do?
Well, my next thing is to take over the world. It's one of them. As well as I have a little insight. One, I want to expand the businesses that I do have. One being society, to actually build it up and have it as a safe haven place for people that look like us. That's one of the keys that I do have, and that's been my vision for the past 10 years, because I actually started this with my own money. So now, as Kamau said, like you said, just understanding the ins and outs of opportunity. And I'm a plethora of knowledge, as well as I'm always seeking knowledge. And I think the opportunity is here now to actually take advantage of it.
What's next for me is, you know, my wife is sitting in the crowd. I just want to be a better husband, man. I ain't lying, man. It's so hard, because growing up, it's like, hold on, I know I said something good, I almost fucked up, hold up. But actually it's important, because what it does is it teaches kids from our community how to hold on to things you love, how to fight for things you love. So that could go into a community thing, that could go into your job force, that could go into what you want to be in the future. What's next for me is just like real investments that I understand. I don't fully got to know, because I can hire the best people that know it. As long as I understand it, I'm blessed. I got to get into housing development, because I want my community. I want it. Like I claimed it already. I can see it in my dreams. Like I already claimed it. So that's what's next for me.
What's next for me? So, Bobby gonna teach me how to skate. What's next is we're trying to build, you know, when we were first starting the tennis project, we heard black people don't play tennis. Now we got Serena, Venus, Sloane, Coco, all these other black girls that are like running the world with tennis. But we heard that, but I grew up playing basketball. My dad played basketball with Norm Van Leer. Norm Van Leer is my godfather. My brother played at DePaul. My best friend played at DePaul, Bobby's teammate. And we're trying to build a basketball facility for all those people, for all the brothers of the girls that are playing tennis in my facility, in addition to housing. But I think what's next also is trying to, you know, through raising money, because my facility is a nonprofit, through raising money, I got to know what the JUF stood for. And, you know, what's next for us is trying to get Jewish United Fund, is, if we don't know what that is, it's Jewish United Fund. It's where they get together and everybody contributes and they share information and share opportunity. And I think that for black people, even in the real estate market, we don't really share as much as we should, and we don't pool our resources. And I think that we can all work together. I told Bobby, we were having lunch 2 weeks ago, and so my best friend was a guy named Quentin Richardson, and Bobby was his teammate. And I would always try to encourage my best friend to get out there, come to this dinner, meet this person, get involved in this. And I knew Bobby was more active in the business community and investing, and I didn't want to really contact Bobby to expose him to the same opportunity, because I didn't want to piss my friend off, right? But again, I wish if I could turn back the hands of time, I would just say, forget it, you don't want in, I'm gonna go to the next brother that wants in. So what's next for me is trying to, you know, all of us who haven't done a new markets deal, state, federal new markets deal, or a TIF deal, or use public subsidy to leverage that experience, share some of the lessons learned, and encourage us all to, whether it's a little bit or a lot, to kind of pool our resources to really work together like other communities work together, because we got a long way to go.
So I just want to thank the panelists. You guys are amazing. And if we could give a round of applause for the panelists, thank you very much.